Gen Z is way different. They don't want something that is like a manufactured brand. They
Yeah.
want honesty, they want accountability, they want to feel like they've been heard.
What you're sharing right now, I bet you it's like a 1 hour masterclass.
Our brand
Yeah.
is built around one core belief that the residents are the CEO. The HH Redstone philosophy:
Yeah.
maintenance gets handled quickly, communication is clear, policies that you implement at the property make sense.
Not only that is incredible, it is highly, highly intentional. And
Very.
it cannot come from a place that is not built without passion.
The next phase of student housing performance won't come from market momentum. It's going to come from hands-on management,
Yeah.
resident experience, and operational excellence.
It has to be the Bible for everybody, resident experience and operational excellence. Hello, everyone. I wanted to welcome Teddy. I I think anybody who has ever been in student housing knows Teddy from almost 2 decades now, right? Teddy has Teddy has
Why do you
spent.
gotta age me like that?
Oh, damn. No, this is what we are talking about, being wise in the industry. I mean, Jason
Uh,
Jason was here. Say he has spent the same time, almost the same time, yeah.
yeah.
But anybody who knows Teddy knows that Teddy is always forthcoming about the industry. When I met him for the first time during one of the interface, he was so open about how the industry is moving, how partners like us can work together, how we can actually build an experience that is beneficial to every stakeholder in the industry. So, without further ado, I want to welcome Teddy right in the spotlight for our audience. Teddy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely phenomenal. Finally, we are making this happen. I'm so glad about it. Teddy,
Yeah,
so
appreciate
let me jump right into something that has been on my mind, and
it.
it is coming from a place of curiosity. Yeah, uh, the whole idea of building Blueprint was to bring a perspective of partners, of student housing operators, student housing managers, was Gen Z. Now, I
Mhm.
know a lot of the times we talk about Gen Z as a demographic. They're more than that. They're a generation that is now building the next level of consumer experience. What is your take on the Gen Z experience or the student housing experience, that where it will take us in the next 5 years? What do you think would be the next 5 years of student housing experience looking like?
Yeah, Gen Z is just a different cohort of students, right?
Yeah.
Than the baby boomers, than millennials, than any other class. Gen Z is way different. They don't want something that is like a manufactured brand. They
Yeah.
want honesty, they want accountability, they want to feel like they've been heard. And so most communities try to impress Gen Z with aesthetics, the bells and
Yeah.
whistles.
Yeah.
But really, Gen Z wants the trust associated with the communities that they live in, if that makes sense. So we go back to this philosophy that, I've stated on several other podcasts and,
Yeah.
just throughout our entire philosophy is that we treat the residents as if they are the CEO of our
Yeah.
properties, and we
Yeah.
treat them like they're the stakeholders, and that's exactly what Gen Z wants. They want to be heard as equals to the operation and to the management of what's going on site. So, if the residents are the CEO and you treat them like the stakeholders, then you're explaining decisions, you're responding quickly, you're owning the mistakes that you make. Property management is not this we are always right and we will always be 100% infallible, right? We
Yeah.
will make mistakes. And then the other thing is you create a sense of community intentionally. It's not just by accident that you're creating this sense of community. You're creating it intentionally by driving certain groups of students to interact with each other. And you do that through resident programming and through just the interactions that you create at the community um, that you manage. Gen Z can detect, mind you, this misalignment immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can kind of smell, whether or not you're blowing smoke or you're the real thing, and that's what's
Yeah.
really incredible about this cohort. If management incentivizes and rewards that experience, they're going to be supported by this group of students. Does that make sense?
That absolutely makes sense. And I'm actually glad that you dived into the whole idea of
Yeah.
residence as a CEO. It makes my job easier. I was looking for a segue that how do I jump into it? How do I
Yeah.
pick your
Yeah.
brains? But you made my life easier. Actually, when I think about, and by the way, I immediately started stealing that tagline everywhere. Though I do credit you, but I have started stealing that tagline so much that residents are the CEO. When we are trying to build an experience for somebody,
Correct.
whether they are moving in a different state, whether they are moving in a different country, whether they are moving in a different city, if they're moving to a different home away from home.
Correct.
You have to give them a sense of community. You have to give them a sense of security, and at the same time that they're growing. So when I heard the term for the first time, I knew I have to immediately pick that up. That actually brings me to my next part of the question as well. That when you say residents are the CEO, you have obviously uh, given a lot of thought into the feedback that you have got from your time at
Sure.
HH, and we know that your career spans a lot of companies, but HH being there, I want to understand from an HH Redstone perspective, when you look at Gen Z as uh, a student, when you look at their experience, what do you think
Hmm.
is most important to them? Is it the community that is most important to them? Is it the convenience of different amenities that is more important to them? Or you think that the spaces have to be today created where they can form their own identity? Out of these three things, what do you think matters to them the
Yeah,
most?
no, I think it's really more centered around community and the resident experience overall.
Yeah,
They're not one to just um, put a financial investment into something unless the return is more experience based
yeah,
than anything else. You'll see Gen Z is very much what should I say, more like an explorer expedition type, in which if
yeah,
they're going to invest something, they want the return to be a memory, excitement, not a non-tangible product that they would be purchasing. And what's that mean? It means community. It means resident experience. It means creating lifelong friendships at your communities. And so that is the product by which that they're wanting. You can have all the bells and whistles in regards to amenities and other things at your property. But I go back to my first point. You can have all that, but if your resident experience is lacking, then what is the point, right? If you're not treating your residents as if they are the owners of the property, then it doesn't matter what you have at your property, right?
yeah,
Everything else falls second to the experience that they're engaged with at the asset. So, yeah, let's dive into it. I mean, really, the HH Redstone philosophy, and this is something that we've been working on. And when I joined the firm, this is something that I brought this philosophy to our group, and I
yeah,
said, you know, how do we want to manage our properties in such a distinguishable and different way than everybody else in property management? And there's two pivots there, and we'll speak about the first. Our brand
yeah,
is built around one core belief that the residents are the CEO. And so what's that
yeah,
mean? It's not a tagline, it's an operating philosophy. When you're considering the product that you're going to support. So, for example, When you step into a five-star hotel, right, there's a way that that five-star hotel makes you feel, right? Whether it
Yeah.
be from how it smells to how the front desk person is dressed and how they greet you, right? Not that there's anything wrong with the Holiday Inns or the three-star hotels. It's just a different experience, right? And if the students of today are spending a lot of money, right? A lot of money, sometimes over $1,000 per
Yeah.
bed per month,
Yeah.
there's going to be an aspect in which the experience has to be in line with the amount of financial commitment that
It
they're
has to.
making towards our communities, right? It doesn't make sense that you would pay $1,300 a month and then your experience is lacking. How's that make
Yeah.
sense in the hospitality world? Do you
It doesn't.
spend $1,000 a night on a hotel room and then the customer service and the experience that you're having at that hotel, for example, is
Yeah.
lacking? It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense, right?
That makes
And
sense.
so if you think about it, our students are our customers, right? And they're the revenue driver associated with our communities, right? The business sense, they're the revenue drivers. They choose the community, they choose whether or not they want to renew, they influence their friends, they shape the online reputation, and in every real sense, they control the outcome of
Yeah.
the success of the property. So
Yeah.
when I say the resident is the CEO, what we're saying is we listen before we act at the property. We structure decisions around their lived experience, and we measure success through the satisfaction and retention of the students we serve. That's what I mean when we say the residents are the CEO, right? The other aspect of it is the same way that the owners, the actual owners, the investment owners
Yeah.
of the property come to your property, right, to visit, and you know they're coming to visit, right? And so you clean up the property, you make sure everything looks
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
because you know ownership is coming. So you want to
Yeah.
make sure everything looks great. You
Yeah.
tidy up your desk, you tidy up your office, and you
Absolutely.
know owners are coming and they come and you have a successful visit and everything looks great, right? The owners leave and you go back to your normal operating procedure of how you normally ran the property, right? So the trash starts piling up, your curb appeal starts lacking, but what we tend to forget is the owners of the property are living with you every single day. So I
Yeah.
would rather you be as concerned about what your residents think of the property as if they are the owners of the property. And that's what I also mean when you're treating the residents as if they are the CEO, you're
Yeah.
treating them as if they are your supervisor um, in this formula, right? And so um, when you establish that philosophy, everything else falls into place.
Yeah.
Maintenance gets handled quickly, communication is clear, policies that you implement at the property make sense, right? Whether it be this is where you put your trash, please break down your boxes before you put them in the trash chute. The
Yeah.
programming that you implement at your property reflects that you actually care about your residents and the experience that they feel is intentional and not just accidental. It's like, oh well, oh my God, I have to do this program. Let's just do a pizza party, right? That's accidental programming. It's not
Yeah.
intentional programming, right?
Yeah.
When I go knock on the resident's door and I have a box of pizza and I'm actually like delivering pizza door to door, that's intentional programming, right? Than saying, hey,
Absolutely.
just meet at the clubhouse. And you can have a conversation with them right there at the door. You'd be like, well, hey, what's your plans for next year? Are you planning on staying with us? We'd love for you to stay with us. And not only that, I know their name. I say, hey, Scott, how's everything going? How's that, how's that dog of yours? I know certain things about the residents. So there are three things that residents at our communities love. They love the sound of their own name. They love the
Yeah.
name. They love hearing the sound of their family members' names, whether it be a nephew, a sister, a brother, mom, dad. that you know their names, and then the names of their pets, right? If you know the names of their pets, you're golden. So
You're golden.
it takes some strategy, to tell you the truth, to be able to, indicate that you can do all these things, right? And if I've
Yeah,
created a relationship with you, I don't have to, I don't have to just memorize, right? I have an investment in you as a resident, and I just know you as a person. I'm not going to have to be like, oh my God, what is his name? Because we have a relationship together. Isn't
yeah,
that, isn't
and
that, isn't that just incredible?
it is incredible. Believe me, my mind is blown to process all that because not only that is incredible, it is highly, highly intentional, and
Very.
it cannot come from a place that is not built without passion. I mean, you can, of course, I mean, the example that you gave about holding a pizza party in a podium or in the basement or in a centerpiece, cut two versus you go to door, you knock on their doors, you talk about their personal names, you talk about their families, you talk about their siblings or their pets, and then you give them a pizza. Believe me, if anybody walks up to me and they do that, I would genuinely appreciate that. Hey, this person has spent some time out of their lives to actually genuinely care for me, concern for me, and think about me, and then do something. This is
Absolutely.
rare. This is rare. I'm
It's
gonna
very
I'm
rare.
gonna yeah I'm actually noting it down as we speak because I have spoken to a lot of people during Interface, NMHC, in London, in different parts of the world when we're talking about student housing. This is a very small nuance, but it's very, very, very big in differentiation. And talking about passion, Teddy, I mean, you have spent uh, a you spend a good amount of time working in an industry that is I would not call it niche, but rather it is very special when it comes to direct facing the consumer. So
Sure.
how would you define the time that you spend across various brands, across various firms? How do you think the time has changed when it comes to delivering student experience? What has particularly changed for you?
Yeah, I mean, ever since I started in student housing, um, it always seemed like the interactions were very transactional, right?
Hmm.
And earlier on, it was like, get the leases, leasing fixes all. And if you're leased up, then no one will care if you're having problems at your property, right? And they say leasing fixes all. And I would say that that couldn't be the farthest thing from the truth. Resident experience and treating your residents like they are the number one priority fixes everything. Like I said before, you can have the nicest, newest property, but if you don't treat your residents as if they are the number one priority, everything else falls by the wayside. It's by far the secret sauce associated with student housing. And I've worked, like you said, I've been in the industry 20 years. And I think what lends to my philosophy a little bit different is that when I started in student housing, I was actually working on campus, and I got exposed to a unique side of student housing on campus,
Yeah.
and I fell in love with the aspect of being able to serve the students versus just manage a property. And I think that that's the key as well. We're serving the residents that live at our asset, and we're treating it as a community versus a business in some regard. So, I did my master's in higher education with an emphasis in student affairs, and I think that
Wow.
that really set the trajectory for really setting the tone on what these student housing assets really can do. And really, in my early days, I was really the fixer. I'd go into these distressed properties, both
Okay.
operationally and cosmetically, and really
Wow.
turn around what needed to happen at an operation standpoint. And part
Wow.
of it is part of it was, um, starting over with the staff in the office. And, all too often that's not the most ideal thing to do. But if your staff in your office do not show an investment towards your community, that is like an infection on the rest of your property, right? Because when the residents are they're not always interacting with myself or the GM, right?
Yeah.
They're interacting with other people at your property. It could be maintenance, it could be leasing, it could be collections, it could be, the person collecting rent. And if they're not getting a consistent experience from each of those members, then that causes a problem. So I may treat the resident like they're the CEO, and maintenance may do the same. But if my leasing folks answering the phones and the people collecting the rent don't show that level of integrity, then it's a misnomer, right?
Yeah.
It's like, everyone at the hotel treats me great, but the valet does not, right? Or the
Yeah. Yeah.
person, at the cafe doesn't treat me right. It doesn't make sense, right? So everyone at the property has to carry the same philosophy and same investment. And the folks that don't carry that investment, I would argue, don't really belong at that property. You need the correct investment from the staff to ensure that the property is directed in the correct manner.
I think this is really beautiful in that aspect, that how you're building the culture at the HH Redstone properties. And
Hmm.
I always believe that, especially in hospitality, in student housing, even in healthcare for that matter, the
Hmm.
distance to impact is very, very less. I mean, you can make or break the experience like this. As you said, if
Absolutely.
I'm at a Four Seasons, but the valet was rude, the whole experience, whether the food,
It doesn't matter that you're at a
it
Four
does,
Seasons anymore, right?
it
The
doesn't
only
matter.
thing you're upset about is that the amount of money you've had to spend to get that kind of experience. It's like, well,
Yeah,
I can get that
exactly.
experience anywhere, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. So
so
I
there's a
feel,
level of
yeah,
expectation.
there's a level of expectation. And I mean, when you're fresh out of college, I know so many great, great, great guys I look up to in student housing, including you. You said that you started your career right interacting with the students. So if you had to now pick up one practice beyond, say, just the student experience, but beyond that, something that you used to do day in, day out, what would you advise young folks who are getting into student housing today, that this is one thing totally non-negotiable besides student experience?
They're looking to get into student housing, is the
Yeah.
question?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
They're looking to get into student housing. Um, you know, Understand that real estate is more than just the buildings themselves, right? They're an
Yeah.
actual living, breathing entity all the way around. Everyone loves real estate, right? The aspect of real estate, owning properties, managing properties. But
Yeah.
I would argue it's more than the brick and the siding and what have you.
Yeah.
It's a living, breathing, entity
Yeah.
ultimately. And so
Yeah.
if you're looking to get into student housing, I would say, be ready to really interact and
Yeah.
really solve problems. I mean, it's really a problem solver role.
Okay.
It's not this, hey, let's sit back and ride the wave and just relax. There's
Yeah.
always problems going on, as what happens in our lives, right? Whether it be a flood, a fire, this resident is having an issue with their neighbor, whether it be a safety or a security issue. But the whole aspect of it is that you're able to foreshadow what the issues could be, and you're getting in front of those issues early enough, right? You're looking at liabilities associated with the property. You're able to basically, like I said, forecast what some
Yeah.
of the issues could be, and that really, the ability to do that will really position yourself as a great leader in the student housing industry. But more than anything is the ability to be personable. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone loves nice people, and
Yes.
kindness goes a very long way in
Kindness.
business.
Yes.
Kindness is actually the most underrated skill in business. I was meaning I'm working on a stay tuned. I'm working on a LinkedIn post that kind of speaks to that, right?
Okay.
Kindness is the most underrated skill in business, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because while everyone else is thinking being loud and yelling and using forceful words are the way to go,
Yeah.
kindness costs you nothing while it shows you as a human and very empathetic. You have a lot of empathy associated
Yeah.
with the people that you're working with. Never have I seen someone be like, I can't believe that they were that kind. Like no one's ever angry about that, you know? And it always
Yeah.
lends itself to a better conversation all the way around. You show empathy, you tell them what you can do, and you're always respectful and kind. Because kind, it costs you no more to be kind than it does to have you be angry and rude at
Yeah.
the end of the day. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
it's an
I think
interesting concept.
it's an interesting concept. I think two things that have really stood out to me, and nobody, frankly, I mean, of course, people have their versions of it, but nobody has explained uh, real estate better than you just did, which is we have to understand that buildings are more than brick and mortar. They are living
Correct.
beings, they are living organisms. They are basically the centerpiece of the experience that you're conveying to the students.
Absolutely.
And the second thing, I think this is something I'm gonna again steal, which is kindness is the, kindness is the most underrated skill. You know, sometimes what happens is you tend to say these things, but a lot of people are not able to embody it, or sometimes you're not able to articulate it.
Yeah,
I think nobody has articulated this better than you just did. That it's a simple skill. It's a simple skill. I mean, how about you just be kind to, and it works both ways. It's not that we have to be only kind to the consumer, or we only have to be kind to the resident, or the Gen
correct.
Z, or the students. It should be universal. You have to be kind to someone you meet at the subway, you meet at the college and the parking everywhere. But when it comes to understanding something that always piques my interest, and I ask this from everyone, and I
Mhm.
have to ask you, is that
Sure.
what do you think is the most misunderstood aspect about Gen Z today? From a property lens, from an operator lens, what do you think most brands misunderstand about Gen Z?
I think that ultimately they don't really understand what their needs are. They don't
Yeah,
understand kind of what they're like I said before, that they're looking for authenticity, right?
yeah,
They're looking for a community. And if you're trying to sell them a product, they're not interested in that. You know, they're very much interested in experiences. They're interested in creating memories. They're not interested in the product by which your property is contained, right? They're wanting to meet their best friend. They're wanting to meet and have an experience and a memory associated
yeah,
with your property. And
yeah,
so, how do you structure your marketing to advocate for that, right? You could say, "Hey, I have a fitness center and I have a yoga studio and I have all that." But how does that really translate into creating an experience and memory at your property, right?
yeah, yeah. No, I think
That's the
this is
challenge.
exactly that's the challenge, and yeah, hands down. I think this is the most important challenge because most of the time, discussions have been so much around the rental increases and the pricing, but it's not that. It's not only that. It is much more beyond that. But you, since you touched upon marketing and technology, I really wanted to check with you, Teddy. And it is my understanding whenever I've been to, and I'm talking about conferences not only in United States but any part of the world. I hear that in the last 2 years, the chatter around leveraging AI for the
Mhm.
student experience has been really, really high. Whether that's marketing, whether that's technology, everything is kind of getting centered around AI. What's your thought on it? And B, what do you think, or if you would love to share any particular uh, agenda or technology that HH is doing to kind of alleviate the student housing experience in their properties?
Yeah, so I mean, both technology and AI, they're very much buzzwords right now, right?
Yeah,
And really at the end of the day, AI really needs to be a supplement to what you're doing. Can't
yeah,
be a replacement to what you're doing. Because really at the end of the day, again, your students are going to see right through that you're either being lazy in accordance with communicating with them, or
mm,
you're supplementing what communication you already have, because really technology is filling in the gaps that allow us to communicate with each other, right? So obviously, technology is filling in the gap of communication, right? Instant updates, resident portals, maintenance tracking. Students want to see that visibility. It's filling in the gap of community building, even, right? Digital platforms that connect roommates with each other,
yeah,
uh, events that are happening. That's what creates, people to come together. When you're not replacing, what you're normally doing. I would argue that you'd still put a flyer on the door in addition to, making sure that it's emailed out, right? You're checking all of those boxes. And then technology is also filling in the gap of, being able to communicate with the residents on a renewal basis,
yeah,
on predictive leasing,
yeah,
while creating a great experience at the end of the day. I mean, no one does paper leasing anymore, right? No one does that. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
um, you know that creates a more seamless and just constructive leasing process all the way around. And if you asked 10 years ago, hey, we're going to do away with paper leasing, they'd be like, why? Why
Yeah.
are you getting rid of paper leasing? And I would argue paper leasing still is around today, um, as a backup of sorts. When you migrate a property over from one system to another, or through a property management transition,
Yeah.
what are they doing in the interim? Maybe they're doing paper leasing. Maybe they're doing paper applications. I would argue there's a better choice. There's a better process out there.
Yeah, I think that that is so true in so much respect because even I wonder, do you think that sometimes the legacy or the systems that we have built, they kind of create that friction, or it is that the needs are changing so fast that we as industry are taking some time to catch up?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say technology only works if it supports the overall philosophy that you're
Yeah,
pushing at your property, right? Software doesn't create the culture, it removes the friction so that the culture can be made, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um, it allows a staff member to respond faster, communicate clearer, operate smarter, so that overall the resident experience improves. Um, the moment that people start thinking that technology replaces the human connection instead of enhancing it, you start to lose the point of why technology is there. And so, all these folks that are thinking AI is going to take over their job, I mean, it doesn't make sense. It has to supplement what you're already doing, because humans crave human interaction. They
100%,
don't.
100%.
I get weird. I get a sort of, I feel a certain sort of way when, I'm online trying to get some sort of customer service, whether it be a rental car service or something, and
Yeah,
I no, I'm communicating with an AI, and I'm like, Lord, operator, like, just let me talk to somebody. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
it has to be able to supplement. It can't replace the
It cannot
human
replace.
connection.
It cannot be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it is absolutely true. Maybe what can happen is if they were handling 10,000 conversations, say last year, with the AI, they can probably handle 20,000. But still, what can happen is AI can supplement that first layer, but it cannot replace the problem solving as of today by what a human can do and lend to this experience. I agree to that. I agree with that. Yeah, I
And
think this is the right
I'll
thing.
tell you
Yeah.
what we're looking at. I'll tell you what we're
Yeah.
looking at. We've had several conversations with Elisa AI,
Yeah.
and really, again, it's not to replace our leasing staff. It is to supplement the support of after hours leasing. Because
Yeah.
if you didn't know this figure, approximately 35% of your leasing happens after the leasing office closes, and it
Oh,
happens
okay.
between the hours of 8 p.m. and 2 a.m. Right? That's when people
Okay.
are like, oh, maybe I should start looking for an apartment. Well,
Yeah.
guess what? No one is open during those times, right?
Okay.
And to tell you, as a GM in a former life, when I was a GM,
Yeah.
I would purposefully do a program called Late Night Leasing, in which I would have food at the office and we would have the office open till like 11 or midnight on purpose. Why,
Wow.
why would I do that? Why would I do that? Because earlier on, I recognized that the people that are at our community either have classes that are going late, or if
Yeah.
I was on family property, people were working maybe one or two jobs and they wouldn't
Yeah.
get back home till 7 or 8 o'clock at night. Well, what is the by far the last thing you want to do when you get home? Cook dinner, right? So let me
Yes.
support that by having like a late night, you know, uh, you know, a late night kind of come to the office, enjoy a meal, let's talk. And it would also be able to support, the aspect of finals week on the student housing side. So we would be strategic. We know people are studying. You're already up. Come by the office. The office will be open late. It's called Late Night Leasing. And it was such a big hit. You would never imagine that many people showing up at the office at 10, 11 midnight, right? We do like
Yeah.
midnight breakfast as well, breakfast at midnight. And,
Wow.
it's just fun. It's interactive. It's also me as an operator and a manager knowing what my residents are going through at that time, right? It's
Yeah.
like, it's not real breakfast, it's breakfast at midnight because I know they're
Yeah.
studying. I know they're
Yeah.
studying. They have
Yeah.
finals the next week.
Yeah.
Hey, take a break, come grab a bite to eat. Let's talk. Let's have a human conversation. And let me plant the seed in your mind to start thinking about housing so that when you're done with finals, that's the next thing that will be on your mind, right?
Yeah.
Let's take care of your housing. Or right then and there, they'd be like, hey, I don't have a lot of time. Can I just renew my lease? And there would be maybe a special or an incentive associated with coming to midnight leasing or midnight breakfast. Um, and we would cater the breakfast. It would be this whole thing, right? But that is intentional programming, right? Not
Yeah.
just a random pizza party on a Thursday afternoon, right? That doesn't do anything for your community. But when you put yourself in the shoes of the customer that you're serving, that's monumental, right? And you see the
Yeah.
difference, right? It's like no one would ever think that. But, as we started understanding that a majority of the leasing happens after hours, there's companies like Elise AI, and I think they do a great job.
They do. I've
And
heard a
we're in
lot.
conversations with them about being able to interact with the leads that are coming in during those late night hours. So that first thing in the morning, we have a bucket of leads that we're working through. That's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge. And so when people are like, "Oh, we're behind. We didn't get a lot of traffic this week," It's probably because you missed the majority of the traffic because
Yeah,
either your website didn't convert them, you didn't have a chat bot, you didn't have something like Elise AI to support those conversations, and they moved on. You weren't available, they
yeah,
didn't get any sort of response,
yeah.
and they moved on to your competitors, ultimately, at the end of the day.
I think this is so true. We also have a team that has to cater to all time zones, and you're right. I
Mhm.
mean, a kid who is looking for housing,
Especially international students,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
don't care that it's midnight in the United States.
They don't. They don't. First of all, I think, Teddy, what we have to do is we have to form a club called Breakfast at Midnight, and you have to have me
Oh,
count
awesome.
me in. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I'm thinking about waffles and pancakes at midnight. I'm telling you, it's gonna be a hit. It's gonna be a hit. You should trademark if you can. Trademark that name. Breakfast at
Midnight
Midnight Club.
breakfast, midnight leasing
Yeah,
breakfast. I mean, it's
mid
just what
mid.
I did when I was trying to build community at the
Wow,
properties that I supported.
wow.
And it was unique, it was different. And that's all I'm saying, right? That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying at the end of the day. What do you do uniquely at your property to build community and show the residents that you're listening, right?
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and to your point, international students, we work with a variety of different countries to ensure that there is that consistency and there that relationship is, being built um,
Yeah.
over oceans wide. And so something like that, when they're reaching out to learn more about your property and you're available, even though it may be a different time zone,
Yeah.
I think that's powerful.
That's really powerful. And at the same time, that shows that you are there to take that extra step for them. You are there. You understand their
Absolutely.
needs. You understand their needs. And that is exactly as you said, to quote you there, it's monumental when I mean, I would love it. I would love it if I go to a hotel, they know where I'm coming from, they know I had a late flight, or
Absolutely.
I'm entering into a building, they know that this guy hasn't got food from last 12 hours or 6 hours. Let us like the food basket. When you go there, they especially call you, say that, hey, we have created a platter of food basket for you. I mean, a lot of chains do that, but yeah, that makes it interesting. But yeah, we have to make that club. I'm gonna pester you again when I'm there. Let's make that club. Let's have waffles and bagels there. But again, Teddy, a lot of people can learn so much when we are unwinding like this. This is not about business. This is not about any kind of self promotion. It is
Of
purely,
course.
purely sharing so much. Like what you're sharing right now, I bet you it's like a 1 hour masterclass for anybody who is trying to think of how do I build experience at my properties. I have to ask you, I mean, you cannot be in an industry for 2 decades if if you don't feel like getting up in the morning and going to office. I mean,
Of
right?
course.
So can you walk me through or can you pinpoint a specific moment in your trajectory in the last so many years that is exactly that moment when you decided this is an industry for me? I'm not
hmm
gonna change.
Yeah, it was actually really earlier on in my professional career that when I was able to have a really humanized conversation with a student that wasn't doing well, and this is
Okay.
more at the university level. Right when I
Okay.
first started, they had indicated that they weren't doing well, both mentally, physically. They were stressed about school. And really, all I did was check on them, right? I took time out of my schedule because I had got the sense that there were certain students that lived within our community that needed, just a, hey, how's it going? Do you need anything? Is there anything we can do to support the conversation? And being able to show that humanized empathy, prevents these people from going down the wrong path ultimately, right? And in this case, it was someone that wanted to hurt themselves. But they were so
Oh,
stressed about
oh,
everything else going on in their life, And later down the line, they had shared with me that they appreciated me checking in on them, because it gave them a reason and showed that someone cared about them. I mean, that's huge. I mean, it
That's
was just an
huge.
aspect of me checking on them and saying hello. And to my point earlier, being kind really
Yeah.
changed the trajectory of how they were treated, and what decisions they ended up making as a result of how I treated them. Now, I mean, if that isn't impactful, I don't know what is, right? To have someone really change the trajectory of what they were thinking about doing to themselves, to others, and really create a better community all the way around. I mean, college is stressful. The expectations from parents and from family for you to succeed and become a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer is there, right? And and we do live in a society of mental illness as well. So, um, the aspect of being kind and being able to really genuinely create that community sometimes can mean the difference between you literally losing one of your residents and someone actually being successful.
Wow.
Is
Wow.
that crazy?
This is amazing. This is amazing, and thanks for sharing the story, Teddy. Because I do believe this kind of we need to have spaces like that where this kind of conversation can happen. Because this is as real as a
Yeah.
day. The pressure of performance, the pressure of
Hmm.
moving out, building a livelihood, building a community. It takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you,
Of
especially
course.
when social media creates a very different image for you, and
Absolutely.
you jump into college and it hits you like a truck. It hits you like a truck.
Absolutely.
Oh damn! That what have I signed up myself for? But if people are there, the kindness, as you mentioned, if you actually are willing to share your space, your time, your kindness with them, I think this goes a long way. This goes a long way. Wow. All right.
Yeah, and there's an
Yeah.
initiative, and we're looking to join this initiative, as well. There's
Okay.
an initiative. It's called the Hi, How Are You
Okay.
project. If you're familiar with it, we
No,
would
I'll check it
advocate
out.
heavily for folks to look at that, and we're looking at joining that as well. It's just overall, it's a great sense of kindness and respect and community that we give to people that are less less not at the that are struggling. So
Okay. All right. Is there a website that people go and being part of it? Would like to share
yeah,
that as
let
well.
me, let
Yeah.
me see here. I think it is, and we can you can definitely tag it as well.
Okay. Let me take a note of it.
Yeah, it's www.hihowareyou.org.
All
And
right.
yeah, we have some people in the industry that are leading that aspect. Um, so
All right. All right. I think, yeah, we will check it out just right after this call. We'll give them a shout out, and we would love to contribute any way we can uh,
Mhm.
to this initiative. That actually, okay, that's amazing. That also brings me to the last segment of our conversation today, Teddy. This is a segment where I would love for you to open up a little more for us, though you have, but I want you to I want you to open up a little more. And would you like to pick any one person or any one initiative that absolutely blew your mind at HH Redstone? It's like a shout out moment. You want to give a shout out to a person, you want to make a team member feel special, or you want to talk about an initiative at Richard Redstone. So I'm very sure the people behind that initiative would be really glad if you would like to share with us. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, an initiative that we're working on, we're trying to disrupt the property management space.
Okay.
in its entirety, right?
Okay.
And you may have seen this online as well, but we're all about owner alignment
Yeah.
in regard to the assets we support. And
Okay.
so, I was brought on by the company to really drive the scaling of our third party property management portfolio.
Okay.
And it's not just about getting deals just to get deals and,
Yeah.
you know, grow to be the largest, right? What are you doing to support the overall initiatives associated with these assets? And so, backing up a little bit, you said, was there a time in my life that really sparked, the aspect of
Yeah.
student
Yeah.
housing? And I would say
Absolutely.
there was a second epiphany, if you will.
Okay.
When I've always been working my own career, working to, professionally develop myself.
Yeah.
But now that I have two little ones and I have two great children, the aspect of creating a legacy for them is important to me, right?
Yep.
Um, I want to be an example to my children and protect a legacy that I'm producing for
Yep.
them, right? In the same regard, owners of real estate have a legacy to protect as well, right? And so why wouldn't someone that is also protecting a legacy understand that there is generational wealth and a legacy to protect within these real estate items, right? And so people are just not owning real estate just to have a building, right? They're protecting a generational legacy associated
Yeah.
with their family to pass on, whether it be an asset or to create such a great experience and memory to their children's children. It's not just an aspect of like people just, getting rich just to, get rich, right? They're protecting a
Yeah.
legacy at the end of the
Yeah.
day, right? And
Yeah.
so again, within our philosophy, we're disrupting the property management space. And all too often, people in the property management space are um, charging a fee that is indicative of the revenue that's coming into the property, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And whether or not, I get you to 100% or I get you to 95%, you're going to pay me a percentage of the gross potential revenue that's
Yeah.
associated with the asset. But I would argue that that's only half of the formula, right? To the success of the property. I could get you to 100%, but if I overspend my expenses, uh, by $500,000 to get you to that 100%, then, that's only half of the formula. And the NOI is really the indicative form of whether or not you're successful or not, right? And so what we're doing is disrupting that model. And we're saying that HH Redstone will come in and we'll do a base management fee, right? To start the property management machine. And
Yeah.
then only if we're successful and we meet or exceed the NOI that we both agree on, from a pro forma aspect, the NOI that the owner needs to get to, then you pay the full management fee. Maybe you pay more than what you normally would have paid,
Yeah.
right?
Fair.
Everyone is winning in that regard, right? Our philosophy is we're successful only when the asset is successful. And
Absolutely.
that transcribes into so many different things, right? The resident being successful, the property being successful, the staff being successful. It's all part of that overall formula. So in the example that I wanted to give you, right, you have, $5 million worth of gross potential rent that comes in. I
Okay.
charge you 3%. That's $150,000, right? If I miss the revenue and I have $1 million worth of vacancy, right? Meaning you only get $4 million.
Yeah.
3% of $4 million is 120,000. Do you think
Yeah.
that really affects me as a manager, whether or not I get 150,000 or 120,000?
Yeah.
It's it really doesn't affect me as a property
Yeah.
manager, right?
Yeah.
But it does affect the ownership because that's $1 million worth of revenue.
Down by a million. Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me, as a property management company, I don't feel that, right? I don't feel the same burn that the owner just felt by losing $1 million in revenue. What
Yeah.
I can tell you is if if that was translated down to the NOI and I didn't meet the NOI, then yeah, I'm going to feel that because I'm not getting my full compensation as a management company because I missed the mark ultimately.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Does
I
that make
think this is it.
sense?
That makes total sense. I think the way you are disrupting the whole industry and the way I loved it personally is, and this is in a lot of respect our philosophy as well. Both parties have to be successful.
Correct.
Otherwise, uh, otherwise we are just trying to fool ourselves. There's no growth. There's literally no growth. If the owner is not growing well, how can we all be expecting to just, go our own ways and then not care about that? Ultimately, the all stakeholders have to make money. All stakeholders
Absolutely.
have to be happy, whether they are stakeholders who are in the building and whether they are stakeholders who are owning the building.
And so what I've said recently on online is that alignment is not what you say; it's what
Yeah.
your structure rewards. Right?
Yeah.
It's how the structure of your management agreement. What is
Yeah.
it rewarding? Right? Alignment is not just what I'm saying. Hey, we're going to be aligned and we're going to take care of each other and we're going to support your
Yeah.
property. But it's how you structure is what actually it's what your structure actually rewards. And in this
Rewards.
structure, it rewards the property being successful at the end of the day. Because in the first model, I could be successful as a management company, but the owner is still losing, right?
Yes.
And only
Yes.
we only win when the owner wins. And if the owner doesn't win, we don't win either. And I think that that is a really, really important aspect to our industry because here's the reality of the situation. The next phase of student housing performance won't come from market momentum. It's going to come from hands-on management, resident
Yeah.
experience, and operational excellence. It's not going to come just by riding the market. People are actually going to have to put in the hard work to actually yield those results.
Yeah, I think resident experience and operational excellence, two things that should be etched in the minds of anybody who is working in the industry at any level, whether they are working as a property manager, they are working as a property owner, either whether they are working with people like well, who are in the global accommodation space like ours. I think
Mhm.
it has to be the Bible for everybody, the resident experience and operational excellence. On that
Absolutely.
note, Teddy, I would really want to thank you so much
Thank
uh,
you.
for taking out the time, helping me build build this conversation where there is everything for everyone. I mean, because the whole idea is that whenever Gen Z or the students are listening to it, they understand what you really care for. When a newbie is getting into the market, they get to know, okay, there is a guy who has done so well, who is the very best at there is, who's a leader in the industry. This is what he recommends. So I think this is really, really, really
I
exceptional of
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you so much.
I
Uh,
appreciate it.
s- Ladies and gentlemen, the SVP of HH Redstone, the very best, Teddy, for you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Teddy. Thank you so much. See you at Interface soon. Yeah.
I appreciate it. We'll see you there.
All right. All right. Thanks so much. Thank you. Bye bye.
Appreciate it.
Have a nice day. Yeah.